Paul Avery, the actor remembered by daytime viewers as Hughie on All My Children, and his wife Sheila Avery, have died after a house fire at their home in Blairstown, New Jersey. Their deaths have now been confirmed by family and reported by local and entertainment outlets, but one key question remains unanswered. What caused the fire that took the lives of a couple many people knew from very different worlds? The newest confirmed update is that authorities are still investigating the cause of the blaze. What is clear is the timeline. Early Tuesday morning, June 16th, New Jersey State Police responded to a residential fire on Mohican Road in Blairstown Township. Local reporting says the home was already engulfed when troopers arrived, and firefighters went inside before 1 a.m. to rescue two people who were found unconscious. Both Paul and Sheila Avery died shortly after being pulled from the home. For verified entertainment updates without the rumors, subscribe to Starline Entertainment. The first reports focused on the emergency response, but the story quickly widened because Paul Avery's life reached far beyond one television credit. Soap fans knew him from All My Children. Local residents knew him as a former township committeeman, a Rotarian, a veteran, a pilot, a journalist, and one of the people behind the Ridgeview Echo. And his family knew him and Sheila as parents whose love, according to their daughter's public message, was never in doubt. That family confirmation is one of the reasons this story moved from local tragedy into national entertainment headlines. Their daughter Kyle Avery shared the news publicly the same day, saying the family was devastated and grateful to the Blairstown Fire Department for its efforts. Service plans were still expected to follow, and as of the latest available reporting, no official cause of the fire had been released. The timeline begins shortly after midnight on Tuesday. Police were called to the home after a report of a residential structure fire with possible entrapment. When first responders arrived, the residence was described as fully engulfed. Firefighters entered, brought out two people in critical condition, and performed CPR. The fire was declared under control at 1:03 a.m. A medical helicopter was reportedly placed on standby around the same time, but Paul and Sheila did not survive. That is the confirmed public sequence. What is not confirmed is why the fire started. Authorities have not publicly announced an origin, cause, or final investigative conclusion. That matters because in stories like this, social media often moves faster than the facts. Right now, the responsible wording is simple. The fire happened, the deaths are confirmed, and the cause remains under investigation. For many viewers, Paul Avery's name connects first to All My Children, the long-running ABC soap that became a daytime institution. Avery was known for playing Hughie, the bartender at Foxy's, a watering hole tied to several Pine Valley storylines in the 1980s. Soap Opera Digest reported that Avery joined the show in 1981 and remained in the recurring role for 12 years. That detail is important because he was not just a one-line footnote for longtime fans. His character was part of the atmosphere and texture of a show that viewers followed daily, year after year. His screen work also included the 1978 film Superman, where he appeared as a cameraman, along with television appearances on shows including Three's Company, Soap, and Tales from the Dark Side. Soap Opera Digest also credited him with work in hundreds of commercials. But the more surprising part of Paul Avery's story is what happened after the acting chapter. After leaving Hollywood, Avery built a second public life in Blairstown. He became involved in journalism and community life, eventually becoming a founder and editor connected to the Ridgeview Echo. Local reports describe him as a Vietnam veteran, helicopter pilot, glider pilot, township committee member, and longtime volunteer. It is rare for a celebrity death story to shift so quickly from television nostalgia to local civic memory, but that is what happened here. And then there is Sheila Avery, whose story is not simply an attachment to Paul's. Local reporting remembered Sheila as an activist, artist, volunteer, youth leader, and role model. People who knew her publicly described her as kind, joyful, intelligent, and deeply influential in their lives. One local official said Sheila was not a bystander in life, a phrase that helps explain why the Blairstown reaction has been so personal. That local response is the heart of this story. In national entertainment coverage, Paul Avery is understandably identified by all my children. But in Blairstown, the grief appears to be tied to two people who had lived there for decades, raised family there, volunteered there, and stayed involved in the community long after Paul's time in front of the camera ended. The public tributes are less about fame and more about presence. There is also a quieter part of the timeline. Ridgeview Echo reported that Paul had scaled back some of his public roles after Sheila suffered a stroke in 2018, becoming her full-time caregiver. That detail should be handled carefully, because this is a family's real life, not a dramatic plot point. But it does add context to how people in town understood the couple, as partners whose later years were marked by care, service, and closeness. The story also carries an unusual layer because one of the outlets covering the fire was the newspaper Paul helped build. That creates a painful overlap between the reporter's role and the community's grief. The Ridgeview Echo did not just report on a public figure, it reported on one of its own founders. That is why the local coverage reads not only like a news update, but like a town trying to process the sudden loss of two longtime neighbors. Entertainment Weekly and People both picked up the story as an entertainment news loss, connecting Avery's death to his television work and the All My Children audience. Soap Opera Digest focused on his daytime legacy, describing his role as Hughie and placing him within the show's 1980s world. Local outlets focused on the emergency timeline and the community impact. Together, those sources create a fuller picture, a confirmed tragedy, an unresolved investigation, a classic TV connection, and a local legacy that may have mattered even more to the people closest to him. What should viewers not assume? They should not assume the cause of the fire. They should not assume details about the final moments beyond what authorities and local reporting have stated. They should not treat unverified posts or speculation as facts. As of now, there is no public indication from the sources checked that officials have released a final explanation for how the fire began. The Starline takeaway is that Paul Avery is back in headlines because of a confirmed tragedy, but the most meaningful part of the story may be how many different lives he lived. To television viewers, he was Hughie from All My Children. To film fans, he was a small part of Superman history. To Blairstown, he was a veteran, pilot, editor, volunteer, and neighbor. And Sheila Avery is being remembered in her own right as an artist, activist, volunteer, and guiding presence in the community. The latest confirmed status is this: Paul and Sheila Avery died after an early morning house fire in Blairstown, New Jersey, on June 16th. Their daughter publicly confirmed the loss. Firefighters rescued two people from the home, but both later died. The fire was brought under control shortly after 1 a.m. The cause remains under investigation, and service details had not yet been fully released in the reports checked. For now, the public record leaves one open question: what investigators will determine about the fire itself? But the confirmed story already says a great deal about the couple being remembered. Paul Avery's television work brought him into homes across America, but his later life made him part of one New Jersey community in a much deeper way. And as Blairstown reacts, the focus is not only on the role he played decades ago, but on the life he and Sheila built after the cameras stopped rolling.